crazy!
Even though only a decade has passed since we embarked on Fury Road, the tools have changed already quite dramatically. And I'm driven by the curiosity I have about story. Not only how to tell stories, but why we tell stories.
This is the truth. Whispered to me by Furiosa herself.
So we'll see everything we might remember from Fury Road up on the horizon. You're going to see war boys praising the immortal Joe just as little tableaus.
What was your approach on this film, and why, in some ways, was it so different from Fury Road when Fury Road worked so well in the end?
Well, the one thing that you can't do if you're doing a prequel or a sequel is repeat the same tropes that you may have established in the previous film. If it just repeats what we did in Fury Road, then I think it'll be seen as a cynical exercise. Every time you see something repeating what was successful in the past, people become anesthetized to it.
It's a very different production. I definitely don't see it as a bigger challenge, maybe because the first experience has dulled my senses. I don't want to go sidetracking on stories of Fury Road, but that was a massively complicated film, not only to get up, but the actual complexity of shooting in Namibia could have destroyed that film. I remember thinking, wow, we should have shot Furiosa.
In Fury Road, all the exposition was picked up on the run. In order to do that, we had to know so much about that world. We had to know where Furiosa came from, what forged her as a person, where did she learn her skills.
It was a script that existed before we even shot Fury Road. At one point in time, we had decided to make an anime, a sort of marketing add-on to Fury Road. We didn't do that. It all fell over, but some great ideas came from it.
When I read it, we were still doing Fury Road. The script that we had to do for Fury Road was half storyboards anyway, so it was like, oh, a script, that's quite a novel idea. And it was a classic page turner. It grabbed you from the outset.
It's not only about Furiosa, it's about the world from which she came. So everybody was able to benefit from that document. And we thought, hey, if Fury Road can get some traction, then eventually we'll make the story. It's been 9 years since Fury Road, and we've got the film.
This is a very different animal, a much different story, and George wishes to tell it in a far different way. George is fully imagining in the computer the environments, the vehicles, the movement, the camera positions, so that all of it rigorously goes to tell the story the way he specifically wants that symphony to be heard.
We ended up shooting most of this film in Sydney. I mean, the weather was crap, but nobody was going to pretend we were going back to Namibia.
Even the action is different. It's not quick cuts. You know, this is hard for the marketing people because it's not Fury Road 2. It's not George making another 90-minute action film.
Of course, there's action sequences. You know, I'm addicted to that. For me, action is the purest use of the film language. But this is a 16-year saga. It's an odyssey. Now, the purpose of Odyssey is not the actual events that happen so much as what happens to her in that attempt to get home. In a world where there's no rule of law or any rules but to survive, what's left of you having gone through all of this?
in this tribe that Dementus has gathered. We all have the same purpose, it's survival. You know, we're in such a brutal environment, barren wasteland. We can't afford ourselves many luxuries.
This is not the kind of world that we grew up in. When we made the first Mad Max, we realized we're not going to be able to shoot this film on budget if we set it in modern-day Melbourne. So we shot in the back streets and the outskirts of the city. And in order to explain all that, we had the simple caption at the beginning of the story. So it became a dystopian world. It was purely driven out of necessity. And then, to my surprise, it seemed to resonate around the world.
In all of my initial conversations with George, there was a couple of key phrases that kept coming up. One was, survival in extremis reveals the true essence of the person. And that was kind of our guiding light on this film. What is the true essence of each of these characters? Because survival in extreme situations will reveal that. You have less food, everything's kind of gone to shit, so that disillusionment is something I hadn't thought about.
That's what happens in every bit of life. That's the negotiation of life. When we're auditioning, we have people send in tapes.
Who said, I want you to do a speech from the movie Network, and that speech is, I guess you would call it mad as hell.
That's very useful. It's a monologue. They're looking at the camera and they're addressing the world out there. The other thing they had to do in that tape was to talk about what their response would be to a world that collapsed very rapidly.
So my parents travelled down this way here.
He's one of the first of the generation that is going to grow up as a wasteland kid.
If you're from the criminal world, when you go into this world, you have a great advantage.
It was really interesting how everyone was able to come up with a plan.
I'm here just to help Dementus feel how he's feeling, fill in the gaps of his emotions.
It's not really rehearsals, it's a month of discussions. I think if you're a nomadic tribe and you suddenly stop, I said to my parents, I was like, I love working with this man because I feel like I'm at university. I have reasons for my reasons, for my reasons, for my reasons, for my reasons, and I am on it in every single regard.
Nico Lathouris, who's the co-screenwriter, and if you're a Mad Max fan, go right back to the first Mad Max film. Nico plays the grease rat who Max roughs up.
Nico is George's dramaturg, and he also takes a certain amount of responsibility for holding that space to give the two actors a bit of wiggle room before a take.
Working with George, I suppose the thing I've learned most, it's simply listening to other people and being receptive to each and everyone's ideas.
Fang got the drop on them, caused it to off their heads and brought their heads to Dementus, and that impressed Dementus.
I don't know, just as he say it to his face.
When you've had the luxury of a rehearsal prep period like we had on this film with George, many, many discussions, months of discussions prior to shooting about who this guy once was, who he is deep down in the quiet places. So each thing that he did, no matter how violent or brutal, in his interpretation came from the right place.
It feels to me, if I'm going to try and win over her confidence, to keep her in this space, it feels a little threatening. So it's like, let's get out of here for a second.
Behind all of that, there's the ability that George has to get from the actors or the crew the very best that they can offer.
George is a really nice guy, and he's always there to help.
Quaden was 9. He has achondroplastia, and he was being bullied at school. And his mother, Yarika, filmed him crying and saying that he no longer wanted to be alive because of the oppression he feels at school. And people were outraged because it was so authentic. I gave him a tiny little part in 3,000 Years of Longing, and I realized this kid is really, really good. So when it came time to get one of these kids, a war pup as we call them, I went straight to him.
I watched the Fury Road. When I seen it, I was like, wow, that's crazy.
It was just a way of saying, forget those darker souls. You've got something really, really effective about you.
I'm a Mad Max fanatic. I think you need to know that, okay? My whole life, I've wanted to be in one of these movies. As an Australian male and an Australian actor, this is Valhalla for me.
Doing my best in the wasteland. Things can get lonely out here. You gotta look for company.
The first character I was offered was the character of Rizdale Pell. When I was reading the script, I asked Dr. George who's playing the Immortan Joe, because Hugh Keays-Byrne had passed away, and Hugh, of course, was the toe cutter in the first Mad Max. He said, oh, look, we're probably just going to get a sort of a stand-in or a body double and we'll do some deep fake stuff. And I said, well, I think I could do it. I know how to do the voice, and I'm the same height. And I want to be the custodian of the character.
You are awaited.
There is a scene where the Immortan has come up with a plan on how we're going to save the Empire.
At first light, leave for Bullet Farm with your tankers empty.
I didn't know his relationship with Praetorian Jack. And this is where the backstories pay off. Tom, in 15 seconds, explained it. Praetorian Jack's parents were in the military, had served with Colonel Joe Moore before he was Immortan Joe, and so Praetorian Jack is kind of like a surrogate son. Action. And instead of saying, da-da-da, you do this, the hands suddenly become like a bit more paternalistic.
As soon as you can, return here with all the munitions you can load. Understood?
Give him a good hearty way. When you have a sense of a character and who they are, and then you're asking an actor to represent and deliver that character, you intuitively feel antecedents, the things that form that actor as a person. And there has to be some overlap. You lift that and you join in the Immortan.
Got it. So one Immortan comes out. One day he asked me to justify making the film to him. So he said, why are we making this movie? Why are we even making it? You have to pitch me making this film. And I see it as a cautionary tale. I see it as presenting a world that is wildly entertaining, supremely beautiful in terms of the artistry that everyone else brings to it. But the reality of that universe is not terribly far off.
We begin with the many skulls, the many deaths, the downfall of civilization and man. Arising from it, the Immortan himself. At the moment, not yet an Immortan, but Colonel Joe Moore. In the crucible of this battle, he becomes more and more important, taking over both armaments and fuel, bowing down to him in the citadel itself, the war boys, the wretched, and those who are left, who all must obey, and after a glorious death in battle, may go to Valhalla and rise up to happiness in the Garden of Eden.
In the wasteland, everything must be made from found objects repurposed. There's no manufacture of anything new. That's why there are no electric cars. There's no power grid, and you can't repair computer chips. But you can go back to earlier technology.
I remember walking into the watchtower, and there's a mirror made out of old phones. And I just looked at George and I was like, we have to shoot this. This is awesome.
He's been building this world over, 45 years. So there is a depth to it and understanding to it that no one else is ever going to have.
He's a wasteland entrepreneur. He's always got the next idea. Yeah.
It's one of George's main tenets. If something is to survive, it has to have an innate worth. And that worth can be beauty, it can be mechanical wonder, it can just be that pragmatically this is the best way to kill the bastard who wants to kill you. Dementus's Le Mat, the late 1850s, 1860s revolver. Beautiful weapon. Dementus being the king of con men, basically this unit. Shut up, please! Thanks, Larry! Dementus always has a trick up his sleeve. Apart from the 9 shots, also had a secondary barrel.
Yes, excellent, excellent.
Armaments are hard to come by in the wasteland. Furiosa's weapon is both knuckle dusters, dagger, and gun. This was known as the Apache. It was used by gangs in Paris for super close contact. It's not very accurate given the size of the barrel, but I think once you've impaled someone with the dagger, you've got a pretty good chance of not missing.
So this is just my knife here, which was made out of a bone, which we found in the wasteland. That's one of my weapons. That's a spanner that I can hook like that. I can hold it like that, and I can fix things with it, like my bike.
George always said just because it's the wasteland and it is all dirty and desperate and all that, it doesn't mean it can't be beautiful. Obviously, there's no wasteland supermarket. They're going to make clothes last and last and last. They're going to use anything they can find. I have to say this, I keep nothing from films normally, but these I really loved. There's a third one, he's even more disgusting. The bear became quite a big part of Chris Hemsworth's look. And the bear, I think, was just because he's such a damaged character. It's his thing from childhood.
Why don't you just keep him safe?
If you actually Google grown men and teddy bears, you'll see quite a lot on the internet. So it's obviously not an entirely unknown phenomenon.
A lot of this all comes out of George's head too. So you may think he's a sweet individual, but he's twisted.
To strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield.
Every single thing they're wearing is there to keep them alive. It's to do with breathing, because none of them can breathe. It's so toxic. The Immortan Joe's body is rotting.
You don't wear that costume, it wears you. All in, it's about 40 kilo. If you come back and watch Fury Road, Hugh is in that full get-up, running. I'm thinking, how can he do it? I was like the Tin Man. You know, I couldn't even sit down without like 8 people helping me. I'd just tip over and roll down the set.
George's other great mantra is keep it simple, which we do until we don't.
All over my body. This history is all over my body, all over my clothes. He needed to put it down so that he could remember everything in the past. Because there's nothing, there are no books left, there's nothing left.
The text for History Man came about from lots of different sampling and research, and it ended up, Jenny just really liked the scribbles that I was doing, so it's actually my handwriting. This is Scrotus. His tunic is made from fish skins because he has some kind of skin disease, and so this is bandaging to keep him from feeling so itchy.
Scrotus' amygdala is supercharged. He is constantly in an aggressive, impulsive state.
He's a very angry boy. As you can see, his veins are permanently popping out of his head.
Josh has got a very kind of pronounced forehead, and so we've just given him a real heavy brow. We've added some rashes, some blemishes on his face, and all through his body. Yeah, it's pretty gross what we do. It's, but you know, it's fun.
Bigger, faster, stronger, further!
Well, I think George was like his brother, a GP, before he came into the film world. So he's very precise about things like wounds and different ailments people have and deformities. He will tell us about diseases or things that we didn't know about, and then we can look them up.
Cutis, verticus.
Gyrata. Look, this is a Praetorian Jack dummy, but he's a lot more rusty-coloured than he is normally, isn't he?
Yeah, look, this is after he's been dragged along the desert earth. You can see he's quite dusty still. These are some of the different arms that we created for Furiosa.
That's what's left hanging, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's what's left once she's chopped her own hand with a bit of steel. Is the arm okay, George? It looks fantastic. Anya's in makeup a lot, and so we opted to do all this as a sock. So her arm comes out here, and we put a green stocking on that.
Look how creepy that is. The loss of the arm and the building of the mechanical arm, for me personally, it was something that was really helped by both George and lovely Chris, who made my arm and who is my arm accompanier.
This is Anya's claw, so we've managed to reproduce it pretty much exactly to Fury Road. It's kind of as close to the original as possible.
This wondrous piece of machinery was developed for the Chief High Blackfinger, the head mechanic of the cathedral, who, as his own body fell apart, has engineered extensions later used and utilised by Furiosa to build her prosthetic arm.
We had to kind of reverse engineer the path of this arm. You can see the core elements where the arm came from, and then she makes it into a thing of war and beauty.
Sit down.
No, that kind of freaks me out.
In Furiosa, we flesh out the story of the wasteland. So places that were only mentioned in Fury Road, these we get to glimpse and visit.
Today we're heading to Gastown!
In Fury Road, there's reference to Gastown and Bullet Farm, and we never go there. So it's great to actually realise those places.
Gastown, we envisage sort of like those shots of Saddam Hussein pulling out of Kuwait and setting fire to the derricks. The desert, the dust and the sand itself are all stained with sulphur and black. And the Bullet Farm grew from a series of fantastic photographs from Serra Pelada, which was a mine in Brazil. Thousands upon thousands of men climbing rickety wooden ladders with sacks on their back. And Bullet Farm is that for us.
For me, all visual effects is about finding really good reference from the real world. But yeah, that's always been my kind of reference for that. I have a database of, I think, 200,000 images from Africa, from Fury Road. It's a fantastic resource to have, to know that the places that we filmed Fury Road and the environments that we used to augment them, I still have all of the material to add to this one to make it look like that one.
You need to follow that carefully.
Tell me about your approach to the green place.
Oh, I'd rather not. We're sort of reduced by schedule and weather to doing a version of it as a base for CG development.
Colin is a wonderful larrikin and like the mischievous sibling. Among his many skills, his first instinct is to make something as real as possible. He's CG adverse in a way. And I think that's one of the great things about Fury Road and Furiosa. Where we start is very grounded.
Cut the sim trap.
Jackets off, please.
You look great.
Rolling. Set. And action. And cut.
It's our first day of production. It's raining and we've just lost the sun, but it's been a great day. Day number one. Let's see how we go for the rest.
This is actually, I was talking about it with George before, 41 years ago we were out here literally in the same locations doing Road Warrior.
Broken Hill is an extraordinary place. It is the red dirt center and where Mad Max, I guess, is best remembered from. That was where the main unit started shooting in June 2022.
I remember we were doing our first testing and there we were out in the desert driving wacky cars across the landscape. My AD department, you know, none of them had worked on Fury Road, but they're so excited. They said, oh, we feel like it's a Mad Max film now. So it was good to get that sort of DNA into people and the crew early on in the schedule.
Another day in the wasteland. This is really the way that this great horde has come together. It was 41 years ago since we were here. Yeah, obviously you're nostalgic, lots of memories. We happen to be here in the winter.
It's funny, when you see it in the film, it's the film. But when you're there, it was freezing cold. And I was thinking, where's the next coffee?
Just looking around, you'd think we were making some sort of Mad Max film or something. But it's actually not. It's Frozen Part 3.
Everyone! Loud!
This is the most bizarre world.
Five Bike Teddy was, I think, the first thing we shot.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines.
Sometimes diving into a character in a film out the gate with a big scene is beneficial. But it's a risk, you know?
Hey, you lost everything. You lost your little caravan of futility.
There were good things, but there were things that I think I was pushing a little far. And it was the first day of shooting, and it was 3 pages of dialogue or whatever. And still kind of finding my feet.
How do we choose? How do we choose who's got the goods? The bollocks, the testes to ride with the mentors?
4 months later, I said to George, can I see that scene? And we watched it, and I looked at him, I said, it's not right. And he said, you know, it's the only scene I want to tweak.
What did you say?
All right, mechanic.
No, just all right.
All right.
Yeah, all right. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, good. Yeah, that's great. Go.
And so we went back and got a couple of little tweaks and close-ups, and I think we sort of landed in a pretty good spot and fixed it.
You are such a fool.
Everything in making a film is ultimately an attempt to manage money or the investment that, in this case, the studios are putting in so that it becomes a profitable business. When you're doing a film of this size, you've got 2 units rolling on several locations, communicating through a satellite system. You have a massive crew, 1,000 people behind the scenes and however many you got on set. You got to feed them and sanitation. You're in a desert. In Broken Hill, the size of the spread and how we've got the vehicles and we're getting them on set, all that stuff has to be done correctly every day, or you're blowing money out the door for no result.
The last thing you want to be doing on set is making things up as you go, because you have no idea if it's all going to be coherent at the end.
At this stage, you're saying the bodies have dropped off. If they haven't, if there's anybody there, we'll place one for...
And the most important priority, make sure nobody gets hurt, make sure nobody gets killed. So when you shoot these things, it's definitely done bit by bit.
2, 1, action.
And it's following a preset plan that George has outlined with Guy Norris.
And then you let it go.
Both of them have worked since Guy was 21. You know, he's now 103.
Wow. First worked with George in 1981. I was 21 during Road Warrior. There's a stunt that I performed in it called the cannonball stunt. There's a buggy that rolls in front of my bike. I crash into it and end up pencil flipping over the bike into a ravine.
And we've been working together ever since, one way or another. The very first Mad Max, the script, was 247 pages long. And I described every single shot and what happened within the shot. It was a technical document. Can you come a little wider to see more of the hair?
Wider.
That's it.
George has got just an incredible sort of brain for the detail of a film. If the machine ever existed that you could just plug into that brain and project the film, we'd all be out of a job.
On Fury Road, storyboards became the way which we worked. We did do some previs, but we had a thing where every day in the middle of the Namibian desert, Guy had scale models of each of the vehicles. And we'd have these meetings, which were very safety driven, and we'd drill that with the toys. Guy is one of those people who's evolved his process with the technology.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, that's great. It's a great system. I really like that.
Oh, great.
Yeah, good.
Toy Box really came out of our work and our design process with George. Harrison, my son, who's my partner, developed a kind of a digital version of toys. So we designed the action inside the Unreal Engine like a stage play or a football play. Then we decide how to cover it.
It's real-time rendering, so we were able to make changes very, very quickly and easily. So that was an incredibly valuable tool. an advance on just storyboarding or previs.
Designing shots in Toy Box, by the time we got to set, we knew what we wanted to do. And even testing the oneers, where we try and let the action play out within one shot, we ended up choreographing the movement of the actors and the camera together and making sure we're revealing everything we need to at each particular time within the scene.
Oh, this one's alive!
In the shot where Dementis had run down Furiosa and Praetorian Jack, and that one starts with them in an upside-down car and they get dragged out by Dementis. The whole choreography of the scene was fantastic. You really feel like you're immersed within the scene. And basically it was all in camera.
Did you see that? You see how they fought for each other, this little army of two? Where were they going? So full of hope? There is no hope!
It's a shot, obviously, that's quite complex, lots and lots of variables, dependent on everybody doing everything very precisely. From the camera to, of course, the actors. We got it in 7 takes, very, very happy with it. The sun was in the right position, and all the pieces fell together. And there's always the satisfaction, of course, of pulling something like that off.
We started on some really big scenes. George was insistent on the fact that she would not make a sound or cry. Just no sound, no tears. Just hold it.
Are you able to, yeah, keep your head straight, but yeah, shoulder high. That's it.
Because that was such a huge scene, I was really in my feelings. It was only possible for me to do that on screen because in between takes, I could go off and grieve, and I could go and cry and make sound and allow the feeling that I had to dissipate, so when they said action, I could hold it in. One of the things that was really important to me was I didn't want to look at Dementis in that moment because I didn't want we didn't want to give him the satisfaction of her attention. Her attention only existed for Praetorian Jack, and she was going to give him the dignity of her regard.
There was, you know, a moment on top of the monster truck after Praetorian Jack had been killed. You know, they've been dragging the body around for hours and hours, and in the script, Dementis was like bored and he wants to go home. And something in that moment, you know, the sun was setting. It was quite a beautiful evening out in Broken Hill. There was a nostalgia to the moment and a kind of a sadness that I said to George, oh, I think he's like, on some level, is realizing that this isn't fulfilling, this isn't bringing what he hoped would bring him. It's a residual kind of thing here that is just, something is, something's not right about this. There's like an addiction to violence because it's stimulating and it's a shot of adrenaline and it's exciting for a minute. And then after a while, he's become acclimatized to that feeling and he's no longer getting high anymore. And there's a stillness and a quietness to the moment, which I thought was quite tragic for the character at that point. And that always has stuck in my mind.
Action sequences have to be about character. That's very much the way we look to design the narrative, the architecture of these stories. That's what I think we see between Praetorian Jack and Furiosa.
Well, the bullet farm sequence is really nearly at the end of the film. You're in quite a large space. It's like a small city. The real challenge is how do you tell a story in a multiple location place, but make sure you keep all the strands so we understand where everybody is. What's the geography of the action? What are each of them doing at that particular stage? And how does that drive the story forward? Our approach has always been exactly the same, where the action comes out of the characters and the story.
our hero and heroine have been separated now. They're both under fire. And so Praetorian Jack, to help Furiosa, he reverses the vehicle, picks up this El Rancho vehicle and slams it back into the portcullis, killing the rest of the guys to basically protect her.
They've made an agreement, and she knows if he fires the flare gun, that's what that means. It's a very quick decision he makes. He can only make it quickly.
Yeah, I want to really hold a moment of Dementis and Furiosa looking at each other.
Yeah. As the truck pulls in, I'm already looking that way.
Oh, yeah. He's prepared to give up his self-interest, possibly die, for her to fulfill the promise to the mother. And she makes that mistake, or what appears to be a mistake, for a second time, cannot help come back for him. And they both know at that moment that it's not just words, it's by actions that there is a positive regard for each other. That's the purpose of that action sequence. We'll do it.
Okay.
We're definitely going to do it. It's a really good idea.
So I think it's kind of your job to always be aware of where you are in the story. So whilst it can feel a bit bitty at times, you then get to see it all cut together and you understand that. I did two things that really, really helped me. One, I would rewatch action sequences in Fury Road because that gives you an understanding of how it's edited together. And I also started watching dailies because it helped me understand the world more. And that allowed me to be incredibly vulnerable within it.
You know, if she's going to drive off now, leaving a dead body with a bullet hole through the back of his head, then we say, oh, gee, that doesn't make me feel a lot.
This character, the second I read her, I was like, oh, okay. This is going to be one of those ones where it's very difficult to separate yourself. And that has been hard to let go of when I go home. But I hope that that means that something is working because all I care about is telling this person's story.
The scene I was most nervous about was the face-off between Furiosa and Dementis. It's a battle of wits and words, and he doesn't have the tools he normally has to defeat someone.
The scene, like any climactic moment, it has to hit the right notes and deliver what the intent was.
You take two individuals in some extremely isolated place, and their essence is finally revealed at the end.
The whole sort of the film builds up to that encounter. So we did that towards the back end of the shoot.
We meet, it's like she doesn't kill him because there's no satisfaction. She wants more than just his death. As we're leading up to that scene, we had rehearsals, we interrogated the screenplay over and over again.
Because maybe the gun is what makes me go. Little D,
Yeah,
the hair was black, whatever it is, the I know who you are, okay?
When you call her Little D, if that was when it came in, it's like, oh, this is different. You do remember what you did to my mother.
Can I say, the moment he gives you that, and you get a catharsis, it's going to erode the catharsis later.
Originally, that scene was a conversation at the end of the movie.
We're looking at a vengeance tone. We've seen them. The first Mad Max was a vengeance tone. In classic stories of avenging angels, the person seeking retribution is cold and dispassionate and immovable.
It's like this character has been chasing this man for so long, and she has him alone in the desert, and she can just feel her feelings. It is important to me to have a breaking down of this more metallic Furiosa.
The way that George and Nico had written that scene and then what Anya insisted on having in there, it took us 4 months to get to. You know, there were a lot of conversations and variations and changes and shifts. It kind of potentially could show he got to her, and which is even more heartbreaking.
Yeah.
The fact that she does resort to violence.
Yeah. George is a genius. He's not thinking in 2D, he's thinking in 3D. The way that I describe it to him sometimes is I'm the little ant on the ground and you're the bird in the sky that can see everything that I can't see. But I can also see stuff down here.
There has to be some action that's not just intellectual discussions, what I'm trying to say.
Where do you feel it should happen?
I need to grab him and scream and beat the living shit out of him.
I realized by that time, Anya had more authority over the role and where she was than I had as the director.
Can I just say, I think for the first time I realized that in everything that's been said, you should do something to him.
Thank you.
Every time. We've got to work out what it is.
George was generous enough to really feel my passion and my feeling towards it and go, okay, I think maybe there's something in that. It's just been incredibly collaborative in that aspect.
It's a good thing that we went through that process. Anya knew where she was with the character, Chris knew where he was with the character, and that's how it should be.
Ow! I love pain. Pain lets me know I exist. If you can't do me quick, you'll have to do me slow. Either way, you're not going to get anything close to what you want.
It's good. It definitely, the wax punctuated, it worked really well.
I hadn't shot a scene like that over 3 or 4 days before. Normally you would do that in a day, but the way George wanted to shoot it and the detail he wanted to have and the exploration within the scene meant that it was going to take that amount of time.
No big belly for a little
Yeah, exactly.
If I may.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah. It was very interesting for both Chris and I because we were essentially almost on different movies. So it created this sort of atmosphere where we were both just so ready to come and do this scene.
I am nothing. I have nothing. I'm yours.
This is the payoff of the whole film, this little two-hander scene. There's certain things you can hurry, but that sort of creative process you can't. So even though there's like a couple hundred people hanging around, you just got to give them the space and not feel like there's all these eyes watching. So the easiest thing is to just clear the set and give them the time to work it out.
That's vicious. The actor and the character brings to that moment a huge amount of turmoil. It's volcanic.
I had been holding so much in for such a long time.
And again?
George, very much at the beginning, was like, just go.
My childhood, my mother, I want them back.
Of course you do.
I want them back!
That's exactly how I felt.
George and Chris were so wonderful about that because I was kind of ready to go. Once we did it a couple of times, then, you know, we went in and tweaked.
By the time it came to shoot, you've built up your instincts so much that you're no longer thinking about how to react in that space. It's just what's in your gut.
You idiot! You can never balance the scales of their suffering.
There was a burning sort of rage within Furiosa that Anya felt so strongly about, which really dictated then Dementus's reaction.
What you want here are my cries of anguish, anguish without end.
The scene changed for the better because both of them were able to harness that. That cold, avenging angel, that wasn't her. That is not even the character, which we get to understand as the story continues into Fury Road.
And thank you. Thank you, PJ.
Thank you.
Thanks, honey.
Thanks.
Anya's performance, especially towards the end of the movie, and that hate, that pure desire to take down Dementus is so strong. And it really inspired me. And the way that Anya plays that whole development all the way up to the end tells you, as a composer, what journey you have to make that a good narrative.
Certainly on a George Miller movie, sound is very important. Sound can carry a lot of emotion, and you can use sound, if you want to,
as a powerful tool in filmmaking.
Working on this film is not what I would consider a normal film score type job.
Normally in the mix, at least traditionally, there's always a battle between the composer and the sound design people and say, oh, we can't hear the effects, or we can't hear the score. Rob McKenzie, the sound designer, and Tom both got involved with each other early.
We had a real simpatico, I guess. He's been creating all of this music, which sounds like vehicles. I don't think the audience will be able to even tell what's sound and what's music.
We're both so focused on sound and what sound does and the way that music and sound design interact. We really feel like we're a tandem that are not fighting each other, but complementing each other.
The sharpness of the impact, great, if you can get more boof into it.
Sure.
Yeah, rumble the whole theatre. Yeah.
George is very specific. It's in the specificity of the direction that we find the overall feeling of the soundtrack.
My first big notes is the bees. It'd be great if the bees were very present.
Yeah. So one of the rules for The Wasteland is it must be a found object and then able to be repurposed as well. We have a real sound, but we also repurpose that to be an emotive sound.
This one's for me.
The film opens with Furiosa in a peach tree surrounded by bees.
I'll get that one for you.
I've taken those bees and affected them and sort of twisted the bees so they take on Furiosa's feelings.
Stay very still.
And that sound then becomes a motif throughout the film as her character develops.
Make it a bee documentary. Yeah.
Now, we have a problem.
The music kind of emerges out of the sound design. We're unaware of when it begins, I think.
Everything that happens to Furiosa is seen through her eyes, like even the other characters in the movie. Technically, her theme is a very simple pulse. Dum bum bum ba da dum bum ba ba bum. And this pulse changes like in character and in speed. If something is happening that is fearful to her, it has flutters in it. Almost like heart palpitations. When we're in certain action moments, the pulses speed up and they get faster with like erratic rhythms to underscore the unpredictability, what might happen. Awesome, let's record immediately. That's all great. A few organic instruments really take center place in this score. One is the duduk. It comes from Armenia, and it has this really soaring tone that immediately draws you to like the deepest felt emotions. The second one is the didgeridoo. The didgeridoo and the duduk are both responsible for holding that feeling of home. I've been working with William Barton, a great didgeridoo artist. He's a deeply intense player that really lives the Aboriginal culture. It's probably one of the oldest instruments that we have on the planet.
I was just reacting to the film in there, so I feel like I just should do that. And then we see where it takes us. Yeah.
And if you feel you want to try a number of takes, it's completely up to you.
As the movie progresses and it becomes less and less likely she will ever be able to go back, that duduk and didgeridoo becomes more faint. until at a certain point we can't hear it anymore. And the only thing that's left is pure hate to take the Dementors out. Other sounds in this film score are almost exclusively made with a synthesizer system that's called Buchla. This thing has such a unique way of creating the most bizarre pulses, rhythms, soundscapes, whatever you want. With this system, I was able to create very, very aggressive sounds for her that at that point become prominent in the score. Did anybody play here on Fury Road like 10 years ago? Yeah. Oh, good amount. We were able to build a score that is now the perfect handoff into Fury Road. So it's like jump, 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 and then let it just ring out.
Music is the internal narrator of the story. We're always in stories going from the specific of the character to the larger universal themes. And that's, I think, what music does best.
So tell me what you guys are doing.
So we're on a shoe pile, and we have to throw shoes and just scavenge around for the right
We have
pair.
to find the same pair of each shoes.
Yeah.
Then if it doesn't fit us, we can pass it to him and then me. And then, yeah, that's basically it.
As human beings, wherever we are in time and space, we have the same patterns of behavior. And one of the most interesting things about working in the world of Mad Max is that even though the stories are set in some degraded future, we go back to behaviors that are at least medieval or pre-medieval. So in a way, it's forward to the past. And in that, we measure it against the current zeitgeist and the things that were experienced in our time.
I really remember seeing Fury Road, and one of the thoughts that I had when I left that cinema was, that is my idea of hell. Everything is just aggression and death, and hope, you know, is barely there. And if it is there, it's this one tiny little sapling.
It's familiar yet unfamiliar. It's inviting yet brash and offensive.
I think humans are fascinated by the idea of catastrophe. I think there's a sense in which we go, that's when I'd find out who I really am. Or perhaps I'd become more than I am. I mean, as much as I hope it doesn't happen.
I think everybody's drawn to the Mad Max films because of the idea of the freedom. When every day people are going to work doing all the same things they're doing, I think sometimes they really wish they could be out in the wasteland.
That's the thing that has always really struck me as a Mad Max fan, is what happens to us when this structure that we built falls down and we're back in the jungle. Who do we become? Is it because the laws are instilled that we follow them, or is there something intrinsic in us? What is our true nature?
These movies, you know, sometimes I see what's going on in many parts of the world right now, and I'm going, this is like a month or so away. It's more an information booklet rather than entertainment.
I believe that they're drawn to it because it's just another alternative to living. In the wasteland, you're living in a civilized society, as up as that may seem to some people.
I think it's just the fact that something's happening afterwards. At least there's a future. At least it totters on. Maybe that's almost enough for us, and then we don't have to change what we're really doing or who we are or how we are. It'll keep staggering forward.
There's a notion in technology that the future is here It's just unevenly distributed. There are some pockets of human behavior which are very clearly futuristic. We're anticipating where we may perhaps be even a century from now. But there are others in which the behavior is very, very elemental. That's a spectrum of behavior that's available to you in the Mad Max world or the wasteland world. That's one of the big attractions to these stories. That's why they won't let me go. That's a long answer, but you'll be able to trim it up.